Jill Flynn. I'm an instructor here at BPSOP. I teach pet photography, and I'm very excited to be able to participate in the weekly critiques. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first image up is titled White Stallion by Lynn Ronan. Lynn's description about this image says it was taken at the end of a rodeo event. The day was bright sunshine, harsh light, and it was very dusty. Her camera settings were aperture 6.3, shutter speed 1/2000th of a second, ISO 500, and focal length was 210. Lynn said that since the white horse stood out from the brown ones, she decided to convert this to black and white and add a somewhat heavy vignette. This is a really nice storytelling image, Lynn. There's lots of things I like about it. I like how you isolated this white horse between the dark horses, both in front and behind the white horse. I also like how you shot this with a fast shutter speed and froze that windswept mane and tail, and also it kind of froze all that dust that's being kicked up. It almost looks like a fine mist, and with the harsh light, that's a really nice effect. I also like how you composed this with the horses traveling through the frame at a diagonal. Since they are already walking and moving, that adds even more of a sense of movement through the frame and extends the line in your composition and adds flow. It also gives the viewer's eyes something to follow through in the frame. In the background, I can see some cowboy hats and a hint of some cowboys. That really has my curiosity piqued. In an image like this, adding a human element to this story would be really nice. It could add a whole nother dimension. I can easily envision these cowboys with their heads between the rails talking to the horses or even talking to themselves. So I know you don't always have control when you're at an event or at a setting like this, but sometimes it's worth it to try to engage the people, call out to them, shout out to them, say, hey, I want to get a picture, I'd love for you to be in it, and you'd be surprised at what people will do. They might just stand up on those fence rails and pose for you. So something to consider for next time. And one other thought is I like how you have one horse there on the right side of the frame. If you could show a little bit, if you showed a little bit more of that horse, more of his body, I think that would kind of round out this composition better. Right now he's cropped kind of tight, and that tends to leave like an abrupt end there on the frame. So I don't know if you showed a little bit more of his body, that would extend the line a little further and just be like a nice finishing touch. I don't know if you cropped this or this is the way you shot it in camera, but edges are very important in images, so try to stay on top of what's going on and let everything kind of flow in and out in an appealing way. You did a nice job on this, Lynn, especially dealing with the bright, harsh light, so that is always very challenging. But you did a really good job, and again, you had a kind of a vision for focusing on this white horse, and you did it in a creative and interesting way. And something to consider again for next time, I don't know if you have access to rodeo events, but an interesting perspective would be to sit or lie down on the ground and just photograph the horse's legs and hooves and how they're and all the dust that's being kicked up. That can be a really interesting image and a very unique perspective. So if you're fortunate enough to have access to these events, that could be something fun to try for next time. So thank you again for submitting, and happy shooting. Next image is called Venice Canal by Nina, and her camera settings for this shot were aperture 5.6, shutter speed 1/13th of a second, and ISO 800. Nina, you did a really nice job capturing the bright colors and the neat architecture and the reflections in the water that define Venice. I think you really captured just the mood and essence that we come to think of when we think about Venice. I also like how you composed this in the vertical orientation and the fact that you did not split the frame in half, but rather show just like the bottom third of the frame with the reflection in the water, and then the rest of the frame was the architecture. And I like how like the windows are scattered in that upper portion of the frame. It really adds a lot of visual interest, and it kind of makes the eyes, keeps the eyes engaged in the frame, and even kind of follows the line back through the windows in the yellow building. I noticed you shot this at a shutter speed of 1/13 of a second and an ISO of 800. So that leads me to believe that the lighting conditions were a bit challenging, a little bit dark. You may have been in an area of Venice where maybe it's a dark alleyway, or where there wasn't sufficient light, or it could have been a cloudy day. So the lighting conditions were challenging, and that's why you had to use a high ISO and slow shutter speed. This is an instance where a tripod would come in handy, so you could either get away with using a slow shutter speed and get a sharp focus, because your image looks a little bit soft, and I'm guessing that's due to your slow shutter speed. A way to get around that obviously is to raise your ISO, but when you do that, you risk the chance of having more noise in your image, and every camera handles high ISO noise levels differently than others. Some cameras handle it well and some don't, so you have to know the threshold of your camera. You also could have used a wider aperture. You shot this using aperture of 5.6. That may have been as wide as you could go with your lens. I don't have the information on your camera lens, so you actually may have been doing everything you could to maximize the light, and then just needed a tripod to help steady your focus. So something to keep in mind for next time is to whip out that trusty tripod. I did want to add, Nina, that I like how you included a little bit of green leaves on the right side of the frame. You've introduced an element of nature into this scene of Venice, something where it's unexpected, but it's very appealing, and it's a very nice touch. So thank you again, Nina, for submitting. This next photo is taken by Matt Kaminsky, and it's a photo of Bridal Veil Falls in Yosemite, and it was taken in color and then converted to black and white. Matt said he felt that the tonal range in black and white brought out the detail in the falls and made it stand out from the background. Matt used a fast shutter speed to capture the detail of the cascading falls. His camera settings were aperture of f/18 with an exposure compensation of -2 and a shutter speed of 1/400th of a second. This is a stunning image, Matt, with very beautiful lighting and dramatic mood. For me, mood is such a powerful element in a photograph, and you did an outstanding job on that. Just the way the light hits that mountain in the falls is really gorgeous. I also like the way you composed it with the sky at the top and the little gentle dip, and as a way that the light comes down from the sky and illuminates this beautiful cascade of water. And you did a nice job illuminating the falls. I can actually see detail in the water. It creates a very strong focal point, and my eyes go right to the falls. I also like the way that you frame this magnificent rock and falls with trees both along the side and in the foreground. And I like how you can see down here the little splash of light. I guess that's where the water's hitting, and it's even illuminating the trees down there at the bottom. And the other really nice element in this photograph is how you can see the trees up here at the top of the mountain. It really puts everything into perspective as to how large and magnificent the Bridal Falls is. So it's a wonderful tribute to Mother Nature and the beauty, really, that is Yosemite. One thing that would be nice to see in this image is to see more detail in the trees along the right side here. See on the left side, you're getting detail in the trees, and I think that looks really nice. So I think it would be nice to see that same detail over here, and I think that would balance out your composition. So right now, this portion of the trees, they're in silhouette. So we can try to open that up in Photoshop, but I have a feeling that there's uh, not a lot of detail there because it's quite underexposed. But we can just go in and do a quick exposure adjustment, and we can just adjust the sliders to open it up. And as you can see, the image is brightening up, and it's brightening up here a little bit, but not a lot. You can even try a little more. So it's bringing out a little bit of detail, but there's still this area that lacks detail. So we can, you could do the same thing with levels or curves, but I think you're going to run into the same problem. We could even go in and with the brush just bring back the original image where we don't need more light. Go over here. And maybe we want to see a little, let's bring down the opacity a little bit. Maybe we want to see just a little bit of detail, maybe even that part of the mountain. But again, here even though we opened it up, we're unable to bring back any detail because it's just underexposed. So the way to work around that would be to bracket your shots, take a series of shots at different exposures, and that way you can get an exposure for these trees in the foreground and then just overlay a couple images so you still get the beautiful exposure like you have here on the falls and still get a nice exposure on the trees that are framing the falls. So just something to keep in mind for the future. Thank you, Matt, for submitting this image and sharing this spectacular view of Bridal Veil Falls with us. This next photo was taken by Eileen McCausland, and she titled it A Working Girl. And the settings was taken with a Nikon 600D using natural light. This is a beautiful image, Eileen. I love everything about it. I don't even know where to start. We'll start off with the lighting. This is really just sublime, beautiful natural light. It really just floats in and just illuminates this space effortlessly. And it illuminates this young girl beautifully. You can see her face detailed in her eyes. You can even see the whites of her eyes. Her face is just illuminated beautifully. And you have all kinds of wonderful elements going on that all help tell the story here, from the dried flowers that she's holding to the dried flowers that are hanging on the wall to the dried flowers lying by her feet. They all help to tell the story. And of course there's that beautiful period dress that she's wearing, really nice. And then you've got just the amazing and gorgeous texture from the wood paneling here, and you can even see kind of scratches and markings of wear and tear on it. Absolutely gorgeous with the paneling and the lines. And then you've got the lines and the texture in the wood floor, and then you move up here to that beautiful blue wall and even the texture there. Boy, does that make a beautiful backdrop. And then on the left side you can even see the dirty windows, and actually I think those dirty windows are helping to diffuse the light, but it's all part of the story. And you even have some vanishing lines working here with the windows on the left side and the railing on the right side. They all lead the eyes to your subject here. And even with the black arch in the background, you've got some framing going on. Just all kinds of wonderful elements working in this portrait. And I absolutely love this filtered light and in the way it's illuminating the floorboards, and it's kind of surrounding her. It's almost like a halo effect, but down around the young girl, and you have a little bit of tip of lighting here on the flowers and even the side of her dress. So all those subtle things with lighting going on. Every time I keep looking at this portrait, I discover more things. So that's really a testament to the power and beauty of this portrait. So many things going on, but all intermingling and working together seamlessly. So 5 stars on this one, Eileen. This is a beauty. Take a bow. Thank you for submitting and giving me the opportunity to critique this. I absolutely love it. This last photo was taken by Michael Lee Mitchell, entitled Water Drop, appropriately. His settings were, he used an aperture of f11, an ISO of 400, and then he used a, looks like a Canon speed light for lighting. And then he said he filled a black paint bucket with water and used a bag full of colors. So that's how he's getting the wonderful color in this image. I'll have to confess that I've never taken a shot like this, so can't talk really about the setup or technique involved, but I can talk about the visual impact that it makes, and I think it makes a very strong impact, especially with the colors and the patterns that you were able to capture, Michael. I really like how the colors are more concentrated in this center area as the water droplet is splashing up, and then as you get further out, you see the rings and the whirlpool effect, and the colors become a little more diffused. And then as you get even further out, the colors become even pastel. So you start from deep colors in the center, and slowly the colors become lighter and until eventually they turn pastel. So I think that's a really nice effect. And I also like how you can see the patterns in the tip of the drop here, and even down through the staff of the drop. So I think you did a really nice job setting this up, and your choice of fabric, whatever you used, I don't know if it was scraps of fabric, yarn, colorful shirts, whatever you used, it looks great. Kind of reminds me of the 60s and flower power colors. And anyway, I think you did a really nice job on this. I do want to talk about timing, because I can imagine that this took several tries and efforts just to get the perfectly formed drop. So thumbs up for your patience, and thumbs up on the execution and setup, and big thumbs up on the color. Color can make such a strong impact in an image, and this really is a testament to that. So thank you for submitting this water drop, and that's it for my critiques for this week. So thank you, everyone.